Hello again, YouTube, and I'm continuing what I was working on here with the Predator. So what I've done, just to kind of give you an idea first off, I went ahead and put a small magnet right here, and I got a little bit, I don't know exactly what this is from, I just had some extra stuff, so I stuck a little bit in there to give it more texture, and I will be covering this up some more later too, so it won't actually look quite so plain like it does now. And then here is the bolter. So with the bolter here, you might notice all I did is I took P3 putty, which is just the two-part modeling putty, and mix it together. This is put out by Privateer Press. And depending on how you actually mix this will actually vary the thickness and hardness of it. So I've mixed it together here, and I've gone ahead and I kind of clumped it back here. You're not going to see this back side of it since it'll actually be right around here. And I draped it over. Now this is going to be a challenging part because it's very thin here, but I will kind of follow up with what I'm doing with it. It's going to have the illusion of moss hanging off when I'm done. But in the meantime, I went ahead and put the magnet here. This will be super glued in place securely once everything else is dry. But I wanted to show you I'm doing very similarly to how I did with the tree here. I am putting textures on this. Now the first thing I'm doing is I am kind of melding it all together, just making sure that it's all one big piece, and then once I've got that done, I'm going to apply some additional texture to it to make it completely look just like it's essentially just like part of the wood, just like with this one here. So here I am, I'm just kind of working this in a little bit, and the texturing for this will show up a lot better once it's actually in place. So once it's dried, I'll go ahead and go over it some more with a sharper tool, and it'll show up a little bit more. Alright, so what I've done here is I went ahead and mixed up some more putty. I rolled it out into small segments and I've put it around this. Now I did go ahead and I did super glue this in place, so this whole piece is now in place on here. And I'm about to go ahead and meld this in, and I'm going to use the same technique that I just did. Here is a picture of the gun. Now it's still drying and it's not actually attached to that, it's just kind of was supporting it there. So it is drying right now, and there's a little bit of super glue on there as well. And it's just going to cure here, and then I'm going to start on this, just kind of melding this whole piece together, and we'll see what it looks like after that. Alright, and to kind of show you guys what I've done, I did the same technique I was talking about, and I went ahead and I blended in this here with the model itself, just kind of, you know, essentially press it out like this, just to make it mold into it. Then I took very small amounts, probably about a third of the size of this piece in my fingers here, of the modeling putty, and just kind of roll it out a little bit like that. And not just roll it, it's hard to show with just one hand, but I stretch it out to as I twist it. This gives it a nice little texture like vines. And then I would place a little piece of it here and just kind of merge it into the little bit that I had pushed up to the side here. Same thing down here. This is one is in progress. I haven't merged it in all the way yet. And I'll have these vines coming off. That way it doesn't look like there's just this tacky mess of kind of really fake looking stuff here. It'll make it actually look like this piece belongs where it is. It'll make it look like the plants are actually growing over it instead of just kind of covering up the fact that I don't actually have a bit for it there. Alright, and then here we go. Now this is pretty much it. I'm not going to be working anymore tonight on this bit because it is does need to set. The epoxy will take a little while to actually cure all the way. Same thing with the gun. It's starting to harden some, but I'm not actually going to try to attach it yet, just because I know for a fact that if I do, it will rip this putty apart. So we're going to let this harden overnight. I did want to point out I put a very tiny hole on here. It's just a guide hole, and just so you do know, I actually use, I like using little finger drills. It's got two different size bits on it. I've got this one here, which happens to be the exact same diameter as the toothpicks I use, and this is, I use this one a lot with pretty much most of my little miniatures with any of the soldiers, and I'll cut them to pieces and I'll reposition them, and I'll actually drill out the arms and legs and the torso, and I'll use toothpicks as pegs on them. Makes it a little bit easier to work with on here, and it's super inexpensive. Holds up a little bit better than wires do in a lot of cases as well, and you don't have to worry about bending them in place. Also, let's see, oh yeah, I did want to point out, there are still some fingerprints on this thin part here, but this is extremely thin, and it won't matter because it's going to be covered up with moss when it's done. Now, back to this guy here. So as you can kind of see, what I did with it is I didn't just leave the modeling putty on like as a border around the whole thing. I did go ahead and stretch it out so that again it doesn't look like it's all just in one little place there. It actually looks like it has purpose. And I went ahead and got one of the bits from the Dryad set. I'm still using my first Dryad set here, but I went ahead and bought a whole nother box of Dryads about it was 6-7 months ago. I've not even opened it yet, but I know for a fact that I will eventually use them all, especially since I am working on a nature-based Chaos Titan completely from scratch. So yeah, this is what I've got right here so far. I did go ahead and apply some super glue on it, make sure that the little bits of vine and everything will be held in place. So when it's done, essentially the whole Predator is going to look like this. And next thing I'm going to work on, which I can't do until this cures, is going to be the bottom tread here. I am going to try doing a little bit of vine work around that. Don't know how that's going to work out yet, and I am running a bit low of modeling putty, so I may actually have to hold off on that until I get some more, which it will probably be a couple of weeks before I can do that. So got a few other things I can work on in the meantime. I do need to go ahead and make the other sponson for the other side, and I could probably make a few extra little bits and pieces. I need to go ahead and I can work on the turret to get most of that done, and then I'm going to do, since I'm probably going to be making it out of paper using one of the paper hammer templates, again I'm planning on cutting the top of this probably right about here. I'll cut the tip of this off, make it flat, and apply another one of these wonderful little mini magnets in there, and then I'll make another piece that'll just bond with it that you can take off. So the turret, when it's done, it is going to be basically coming out like that, and then it'll have a vine wrapping around the turret holding it in place, but I'll have the whole thing set so we can take it off, so if there is battle damage involved with it, you can remove it, so that way it's not going to, affect the game, and it'll be pretty easy to tell what's been done to it. No, and you could technically rotate it some too, but that won't be as big of a deal here. And that is it for now. So this is the last video I'll put on here for tonight. I'll go ahead and compile this whole thing together, and we'll see you later.